When you're looking at data systems and you want to create an overall data ecology, you have three options: buy, build, or borrow. We're going to talk about that next on the EdTech vlog. Hi, I'm Dr. Matt Harris, and this is the EdTech vlog. Today, I'm in Lisbon, Portugal, as part of the ECIS 2019 Leadership Conference. I've had the pleasure to be here for a couple days and have some just amazing conversations around international education, EdTech. We've been talking a lot about future items. So all of the keynotes have been talking about looking forward, the impact of AI, those sorts of things, future of work, and ways that education can meet the exponential learning growth needs of students going forward. Kind of tied to that are some of the presentations that I gave. So I've given two presentations at the conference. One of them was on digital citizenship across all grade levels and subject areas, which we've talked about before here on the EdTech vlog. And I gave a presentation on data ecology. So data systems or data ecosystems and the best approaches to set them up to allow for data-based decision making. And I wanted to talk about one element related to that came up quite a bit in the discussion today. And that is, how do you build an overall ecosystem of data systems within your school, right? Because what we do often is that we buy data systems in a school to meet a specific task or someone's specific needs. So like the admissions team needs an admissions tool, so we buy that. Or the development and fundraising people need a tool, so we buy that. Finance needs something, we buy that. And that's fine, but what ends up happening is that by having separate data systems, you don't have any central store of data, and there's a separation of the functions and almost a siloing effect of the departments because of those separated data systems. Almost like the data systems work to further separate people to say, well, I don't do your job, I'm focused on my finance job or my teaching and learning job, so I don't need to know anything about your system, and therefore I don't need to know anything about what you're doing, which happens in a lot of schools. And we want to get away from that and move towards a more holistic data system where everything is connected. The reason for this is because it allows us to have a better understanding of the data within the entire school, and it allows us to connect data between multiple systems to allow us to draw bigger decisions. So we'll know that something that happens in admissions will have a teaching and learning effect that might impact maintenance. We can only do that if those systems are connected. So what you need to create is an overall data ecosystem. And we talked a little bit about that on the vlog and the blog in the past, but I want to break it down into the three main ways that you can do this. You can buy, build, or borrow. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you want an overall data system that covers everything from point of sales to admissions and student information and finance, that's fine. You can create that, or you can buy that, and you can buy an umbrella system. So they have umbrella systems out there that will do everything. There aren't many of them. There's some large companies that are trying to figure this out and make it better, but there's some trade-offs. If you do an all-encompassing piece, then what ends up happening is that you don't get what I call the best of breed systems. You get somebody that knows how to do the basics of each of those function areas, which means that they are adequate but not wonderful. And what individual users often want is wonderful. So you're losing the ability to do the kind of exceptional things with these systems because you've gotten a whole all-in-one item. Another piece with that is that an umbrella system oftentimes is incredibly complex. So you have all of these 10, 12 data systems in one place, which means that you have to not only deal with all of the data going back and forth and all the functionality within each of those 10 or 12 systems, but you have to figure out how they're all interacting, which means there's a lot of switches, there's a lot of choices, there's a lot of settings, and there's a lot of management. So you're probably going to have to hire one person just to manage the system. Not even use it, not even deal with the data, and it becomes pretty challenging. And then the last piece is that you're then reliant on one vendor for all your needs. That's not always a good thing. It sounds good, it sounds easy and simplistic, but it's not always a positive thing. Because if that one vendor goes bust or they're unable to meet your needs, you have no recourse other than to unwind the entire decision and do something else. So that's buy, not highly recommended. build. This is the next one. So you know your workflows, you know your data sources, you know your needs, and you know that you're a bit unique as an institution. And you know, as we say, 90% of us are the most 10% unique, right? 90% of us are in the top 50%. Everybody's unique. So everybody has something special. Everybody has something crazy that they need to do. So this really sounds great. We will have our own system built, and it will cover our student information needs and tie to some sort of learning management. They'll run our bus system and our cafeteria. There'll be a point of sale. There'll be a maintenance and management sort of thing. It'll be great because it'll do exactly the way that we want to do it. And it does, and those built systems will do that. So if you know you have a unique set of workflows and requirements that are only going to be served by a very bespoke or customized system, this is a valid solution. Like, this will work. But again, there are some drawbacks. The drawbacks are you are now having to build this yourself. So you have to have the expertise around software design, quality assurance, project management, system analysis, all of these pieces to ensure you're getting exactly what you want. Now, you don't need to be a developer yourself, obviously. You'll contract it out. But what I have found is that schools that do this, or even school districts or countries, they will hire teams of developers. So now you have a human resources cost for the full life of this product. Okay? So you're hiring 5, 6, 7 developers, whatever that is, based on the scale of the system that you've created. That's challenging. That's a human resources challenge. Further, these folks are more focused on taking your ideas and putting them into action rather than being experts of any one particular area, operational area. So they may not be admissions experts, so they don't know some of the most common and best ways of doing things within the admissions environment globally. But they'll do whatever you need or what you want and what you can articulate. However, that requires that now you become an expert in what's the best way to do admissions for this particular purpose, right? So that becomes challenging as well. Further, you are fully ingrained into this product. So if there's a need for some major change, and I'm thinking about something like we need to move everything from a server-based system to a cloud system. You can't really do that without a full rewrite. Whereas a commercial company, they can do that because they've got the scale of doing this for multiple customers. So yeah, again, building one yourself can be pretty complicated. So this leaves us with the last one, borrow. So I talked about buy, I talked about build, and now I'm talking about borrow. And borrow suggests that we're going to borrow from multiple people and we're going to put them all into one pot and create our own. So what you do here is you do best of breed systems for any one of the particular areas that you're doing. You need a student information system. We do a best of breed that meets our needs. We do one for learning management. We do another one for admissions and development, finance, ERP, bus systems, health systems, whatever they are, and they're best of breed based on whether they meet our needs and whether they can understand the functionalities of these parts of the school as the school grows and as the field changes. You know, the need for finance tends to change. The need for admissions tends to change. While you're doing this though, when you do this, there's a couple of little caveats. Number one, obviously these are all individual systems, which makes that challenging because the individual systems might not necessarily talk to each other. Now there's a solution there, and the solution is to get a data integration appliance. They can be costly, but what they will do is they will then connect all of the systems together and make sure the data is consistent between all of them, right? And that's excellent. That's what we definitely want because we want this overall connected system. So you can solve that problem. Might take you a little bit of money. The other kind of challenge here is that these are built for the most common and what they are considered the best ways of working. So your workflow for doing something, let's say like exams processing or curriculum mapping or whatever these items might be, could be unique to your school, as we mentioned before. But they're providing a way to do it that is more common amongst all, against all schools worldwide. So they're taking the most common approach, which means you're kind of at a decision point. Are we willing to change our workflows to meet the way the program works, or do we need to have a program that works the way that we want it to work? And this is a place of analysis, and I'll tell you there's no right answer, but there's one that's a little bit better than others. And the better one is focus on the way the system works. They've done the research, they've got an aggregation of multiple schools, so they have a best of breed approach to accomplishing whatever needs to be accomplished. It may not be perfect, it may not be the best alignment for your school, but it's most likely the most efficient, to be totally honest. Now, when you go the other direction and you want a very customized system, there's usually one of two reasons why that happens. One of them is there's some sort of government or local regulation that requires that you do one very specific thing. Or you've had somebody who has done this for a very long time. Now, for the former, there's a government regulation. What I would suggest is that a big enough reason to abandon the best, most efficient way, not best, but the most common way of doing your particular workflow for one particular need? And most likely not. You probably have a better way of doing it, or a way of doing it where you can just take one kind of side step in the middle of your workflow to accomplish what's ever needed for that government entity or that unique situation. It's probably not worth changing your entire approach just for one item. Now let's talk about the way we've always done it based on a long-serving employee. And I need to say this to you. My approach with these systems says, do not focus on the person. Do not focus on the person. Focus on the position and the procedure. So if a person has been doing this the same way for years, however wonderful they are, that one human being should not dictate your decision about this system. Instead, focus on the position. What does the position need to do? Because that person won't be there forever. And while they are a subject matter expert, they may be able to help further develop the product, but that person is not permanent. Your needs are going to be permanent, but that person isn't. And so you need to kind of separate yourselves from this wonderful person and focus more on the overall needs of the institution. So again, my suggestion is take a good look at your school, decide between buy, build, or borrow, and then fall on one. And I'll tell you, most schools are doing borrow. And they're not all doing it great, but they're finding a way to put it together. So that would be something I would focus on. So hey, do me a favor. At the bottom of the screen here, you're going to see a couple buttons show up. One is to subscribe to the channel. So please subscribe to the channel because I talk a lot about data and data systems. Later, maybe we can talk about database decision-making. Maybe we can talk about some of those best-of-breed systems. Who knows? I mean, ask me. Put some comments in here, and I will talk about best approaches for analyzing the way to put in a student information system. We can talk about that. You'll also see that there's a link there's a button that suggests to follow me on Twitter. My handle is @MattHarrisEdD, and I talk a lot about data. Data is one of the big topics in schools these days, and it's one we need to focus on quite a bit. So follow me on Twitter, connect with me there. Let's have a dialogue around data, be it the ecology and the ecosystems of data systems that underlie the database decision-making or that database decision-making itself. Whatever it is, let's have those conversations. Anyway, thank you very much. It is a lovely afternoon in Lisbon, and I'm going to go enjoy some of the afternoon sun. Have a great day. Bye.